It is Friday the 28th of December 2018. As you can see, I'm back in the kitchen, and what I'm about to do is render down some of this stuff. This is the pork fat from our last pig, and we want to extract the fat from that. And we learned how to do this years ago when we got our first pig, and we learned it from looking up old wartime advice leaflets on how to make sure you got the best out of your food and how to waste nothing. And obviously wasting nothing is one of my themes about our lifestyle. So we're going to do the rendering now, and that flesh that we saw there is going to be heated up and simmered. So as you can see, we've now added water to the pan of fat, and stick the lid on and then just apply some heat and bring that not quite to the boil, but to a high temperature. In the pan next to it we have the fat that came off the pork joint that we had for Christmas dinner, and that's already been simmered for a while and strained, and the fleshy bits went back in to the pan as we have there, and more water was added, and we repeat the process, and that way we drive as much of the fat off the flesh as possible. These bowls of fat were collected in a slightly different way. This is actually dripping from the grill pan after having grilled some pork chops, and we simply heated up the grill pan again and then poured the fat, once it was liquefied, through a sieve and into bowls, and as you can see it is set rather nicely. These two have a sort of slight bit of leftover bits from the chops, but this one here turned out to be really pure fat. So we use these in frying, so this fat here goes into the frying pan. Well, I've now got the extractor fan on because I don't particularly want the house smelling of pork fat, but as you can see this has now come up to the boil, so we leave this to simmer for at least an hour to reduce down the water level and also drive off the fat. Right, this small pan, which has been simmering the fat from the joint, we're a bit steamed up. I've now decided to make that do for today, so we'll just let this strain for a few minutes. Well, it's been simmering away for actually over 2 hours now, so I'm going to strain this and let it stand overnight. It is Saturday the 29th of December 2018. Last night I was rendering the pig fat, and this bowl here was taken from rendered from the pork joint that we had on Christmas Day. And as you can see, nice bit of fat on there, a nice bit of lard, and I think what we've got underneath is a little bit of gelatine, so they separate off quite easily, and the gelatine we'll use in making pies. And this is what we have from the lumps of fat that were cut off from the carcass, and as you can see the lard has floated to the top and set, and as you can see that is easily going to be removed, and we're going to put that in a storage box, and we'll be using that in cooking. Now underneath this is a mixture of fat and gelatine, so we're going to continue to render that to be able to extract the lard from it, but we've also got other lumps of fat from the carcass that still need to be rendered. And on top of that, all the fat bits that we were rendering yesterday, we're going to do again to make sure we squeeze the last bit of fat off them. So on the cooker we have, in this pan, it is still the unprocessed lumps of fat, so they're going to go through the process that the others have already gone through. In this pan we have the bits of fat that were rendered yesterday, so we're putting them through the process again to try and extract the last bit of fat from them. And in this pan we have the mixture of fat and gelatine, so we're going to give that another boil through and simmer it for a bit to try and get the fat, what bit of fat there is left in there, to separate off from the gelatine. We've now got to the point where the fatty bits that have gone through their second boil up are now being strained, so we've got a little bit of liquid underneath there which will hopefully be mainly lard. Back on the cooker, the fat that's being boiled up for the first time is now simmering quite well. About another hour to go on that one. And then on the far side there we have the pan with the gelatine and fat. That's now been simmered for a while, for about an hour, and is now just leaving to cool, so hopefully the lard will separate off from that. So a lot of the processes that we go through for extracting the fat, or the lard, is repeated until we've squeezed the last bit of useful fat that we can out of the bits of pig that we have. It is Sunday the 30th of December 2018. We are continuing to process the fat, the pig fat that we've got, and the last batch of raw fat was taken from the freezer yesterday, and this morning I put it on the cooker, and it is now ready for straining. So in this pan we have the fat that has just recently come out from the freezer, and that's the last batch that we've got for the time being. And then in this pan we have the fat that's already been processed at least once, and some of it has been processed twice. So we're aiming to get the absolute last bit of goodness out of this. Obviously we were working on extracting the fat yesterday and the day before, so this is what we came out yesterday. So beautiful creamy white fat, or lard, but as you can see underneath it we have it separated off from the gelatine. Now the gelatine is the stuff that basically turns to jelly, and we were processing that yesterday as well, and as you can see we've got it in the bottom of the pan there, and it's quite wobbly, so that will go into containers, and the fat will go into containers as well, and that will all go into the freezer, and that stuff, that gelatine, will be used in making meat pies in the new year.